What's up, everyone? Spencer Limbach here from Pool Genius, and I'm joined by our lead analyst, Jason Lisk. And we're live here from Circa Ultimate Contest Weekend. So it's only fitting that we talk about the main event going on here that everyone's talking about, Circa Survivor 2025. That's right. This is our ultimate Circa Survivor strategy show for the year 2025, which is poised to be Circa's biggest year yet for the Survivor contest. 15 million guarantee. And we've heard reports all week that they could get up to maybe 20 million, maybe have 20,000 entries in it, which is insane.
Yes.
If you really think about it. So we published our Circa Survivor strategy guide. You can go to poolgenius.com, click on Circa Survivor tab, and download this as an ebook for free to follow along. And there's Jason and I have put so many hours in this thing over the summer, maybe way too many hours.
Put a lot of hours in making sure it was designed and ready to go.
And and there were so many things when I was going through and editing this that just really stuck out to me. Like, I thought I knew NFL Survivor, I thought I knew this Circa contest, but there's so many things that just jumped off the page at me that I was like, wow, I didn't even consider that. So we're going to be going through those tidbits. You can, like I said, you can follow along by grabbing our free ebook on the website. So Jason, you are the expert that wrote this book.
Yeah.
So where do you even start when you're looking at a beast like the Circa Survivor contest with potentially 19,000, 20,000 entries?
Well,
where do you start with your strategy?
Well, first you got to start with the mentality that, of course, we all dream of winning such a contest. The odds are really, you're going against maybe 20,000 people, right? And more than one person, and we've never had a solo winner in this contest yet, even at smaller sizes. So we probably won't this year, but there might be 8 last year, 20 winners this year, whatever. There's going to be a very small number of winners. Your odds are very small. Let's say, without any help, if you just made average picks, 1 in 1,000 to cash as part of a share, right? So you have to have realistic expectations to have the right mentality of what it's going to take to win this contest, which is you can't play scared early on. You got to be willing to make picks. You're not going to love every pick you make in a 20-pick contest. You're going to have to make picks that, quite frankly, are uncomfortable to try to advance your entry to help it. Because there's only, let's say 4 or 5 great picks that are usually going to be favored in most weeks. Other than that, you're piecing things together. You're finding matchups. You're finding the right spots to use teams.
Yeah, and so we're going to go through all that and what that means for 2025, which teams you want to save for which weeks, what are the best teams to use, what are the ones that maybe they're a riskier team, but you can use them early and give yourself leverage late. We'll go through all those, but first, before we do that, I want to talk about 2024.
Yep.
Because we spent a lot of time in this strategy guide going back and reviewing how there were 8 winners last year in Circa Survivor, how they won the event and claimed the prize. And one thing, this is one of the things that just slapped me in the face as I was reading it, was there were 8 winners that went 20-0. That means 160 correct picks. 104 of those 160 picks were either the most popular or the second most popular picks that week. That's 65%. And there were only 6 picks across the entire year of those 8 winners that fell outside the 5 most popular options for that week. So what does that tell you, Jason? Obviously we can't take last year as gospel and every year will play out like that.
Right.
But you have to also remember last year was upset heavy in the beginning.
Chaos.
So you wouldn't have thought that something like that stat that I just read, would be the reality of the contest. But remember, this is a long contest. This is 20 weeks. And it turns out you just had to survive those early weeks, and you didn't have to be too contrarian. We always talk about being contrarian, but you can be smart with it and still have some really good teams and be different.
Yeah, so what you talked about, last year was chaos, right? So you probably thought, well, the people that won it were just making off-the-wall picks that got them through when everybody else was getting wiped out. No, and it takes luck. It takes timing the market, right? Getting the right pick to win and having the right pick lose that is popular. But yes, most of the people the people that won were mostly on the right team that won, but a semi-popular team or popular team in most cases. So, they got the Jets in week 3. Well, that was the one of all of them that survived, so they all had the Jets. Uh, but in week 2, they had Houston, but the Chargers also got through. It was interesting um, that all the winners picked Houston when a lot of people also got through with the Chargers. I'm going to tell you a theory on that. The Chargers in public pick data were a worse EV play, even though they were actually a decent EV play in Circa based on their popularity. In public pick data, they were probably a bad EV play across most pools. So what that tells me is the people that were picking Houston were probably more aware of just generally strategy in EV. And so there's probably some correlation where the winners actually picked Houston and none of the people that picked the Chargers in week 2 got through. I,
That
I know that's a weird way to think about it, but there is probably some association there. So, yeah, they picked the popular teams that won. And yes, you have to time that right. But they weren't picking teams that were 2-point favorites that nobody else was picking.
Yeah, and you go through this. I have the list in front of me in the strategy guide. We have 4 picks that were the most contrarian picks among the winners. Most of them 3.5 point or 4 point favorites. Like 3 of those
Yeah, that's
were,
as risky as they got
yeah, which you
in
would
just a
think,
few cases.
and you think going into those final weeks, I have to make 20 picks. I'm at Thanksgiving double pick week. I'm at Christmas double pick week. I'm probably going to have to take someone,
Yeah.
underdog here or there. They didn't have to. Like those were
No, if
contrarian
if
picks, even.
we have our tools that plan things out. We talk about future value planning. You can plan out. It's still, again, it's a long shot to go 8-20-0, but you can plan out to give yourself a better path where you don't have to be on underdogs, where you don't have to be on a 2-point favorite a lot, where the riskiest pick you might make is a -4. In most cases, you're on a -6, a -7, or even a double-digit favorite in the right weeks late when you save that team.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction because the people that say NFL Survivor, it's all luck. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a very large luck element to this,
Yeah.
but if you plan a little bit better
Mhm.
than the other people, like these winners did last year, they didn't have to take underdogs late. They took some teams that were still favored by more than a field goal,
Yeah.
which are really good survivor picks. So, I mean, that just goes to show you. Transitioning now to 2025, we got a clean slate. We're before the season now,
Mhm.
a couple weeks before the season as we record this. Where do you start to look at the 2025 season? I know you and I recorded our holiday week episode.
Yep.
We looked at the Thanksgiving Black Friday slate. We said that is a potential starting point, if not to just have in the back of your mind. Do you start by planning that, or how do you look at the overall 2025 grid?
I look at it overall, but you do want to be aware of those because there are more limited options. So you want to know in the back. So because of that, the options are going to get thinner quicker than most weeks, right? You're going to go from 1 to 2 to 3, and option 3 may not be great. Um, and so you want to know like who those options are, who has value, who you might want to save. You don't have to pot commit. You don't have to commit to a pick on Thanksgiving or Christmas, certainly. You just have to plan to have them available as an option as you get into the season and kind of evaluate things. So that's how I start. Like, just I don't go, I'm taking team X
Yep.
on Thanksgiving,
Yep.
but I say these are the teams that are in play for Thanksgiving. I really want to I should have a really compelling reason to use them for them.
Yeah, and we talked about all that in our holiday week episode. You can see that on our YouTube channel. Really good stuff there.
Yeah.
You went deep dive into that strategy. But there is one baseline that you should probably plan for.
Yeah.
We noted in the book when you are playing Circa Survivor, and it's that you have to you have to go through all 20 weeks. You're gonna have to make all
Yeah.
your picks. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it unless something really weird happens.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to come up short last year because 95% of the pool was wiped out in the first month. We didn't. It went the distance.
Yeah.
And like it's going to be different if you're playing in a smaller pool.
Yes.
But Circus Survivor, like we said, maybe 20,000 entries, between 15, 20,000 entries, what we're projecting. you're going to have to go all 20 weeks. So
Yep.
the best teams, we're looking at the best teams in 2025. These are the teams that are favored, projected to be favored by 7 or more at least 3 times in the season using look ahead lines. They are Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Tampa Bay. And then 4 of those 6 appear in the holiday games, like we talked about the Thanksgiving and Black Friday slate. And Kansas City and Detroit are in both months.
Yep. Two holidays, 2 others that are on one holiday, and then 2, Buffalo and Tampa, that show up elsewhere, but are going to be huge pieces as you play through. Because here's the thing about the holiday weeks, right? They don't just impact the holiday weeks; they impact the pick rates in the other weeks. Because if people are saving Kansas City, those picks have to go somewhere. That's where teams like Buffalo and when to leverage them, or Tampa, or teams like that become really strategic as well. You got to take your shots. Those are basically, if we're, I like to draw analogies to other contests, other sports. Think of it like chess, right?
Yep.
These are those 6 teams are your queens and your rooks, and the other picks may be your pawns that you're hoping to get you steadily in good shape in the contest, keep you alive.
Yeah.
But those are the picks that you're hoping to drop the hammer on somebody at a high EV play in a particular week that
And
they don't have.
I guess looking at that slate, looking at those 6 teams, I guess I would call Tampa Bay
They're borderline.
they're the de facto queen, and the only reason they're favored or had a look
they're
ahead
more like
line.
a bishop. Yeah,
That's right. We'll call them the bishop. 7+ point favorite projected in 3 games. That's because of the division they're in. They're playing the Saints twice. They're playing the Panthers twice.
Right.
So they're projected to beat up on those teams, and if those teams are a little better than what we believe at the beginning of the season, that could very well change. But as you know, as I know, the market's very down, especially on the Saints. So that's why Tampa is such a big team to save, such a strategic pick in this contest. So moving on, let's look at some of those. You said let's look at the other pieces, the key early risk reward teams that we can monitor in 2025 when you're saving those queens and kings. What are the teams you could use early?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of them's off the bat, and we'll see how it goes in Circa. Arizona is not going to be a 6-point road favorite anywhere else. I feel pretty confident in that take. They open against the Saints, the team with the lowest win total in the betting markets, a team that has not, as of 2 weeks to go, announced a starting quarterback with 1 preseason game left. They're the last team that will announce their starting quarterback for week 1, and it'll be between a second-round rookie and Spencer Rattler, who filled in for Carr last year and went 0-6, and the team averaged 12 points per game when he started. So there's reasons for skepticism on the Saints. If the Saints really are bad, Arizona's a great pick. And if they're not quite as popular, if people haven't caught up that they need to use teams like Arizona, then they won't be popular. If people are thinking they have to, then we could see them steamed up. But sometimes you don't see that really kick in for a lot of people till mid-season. So that same game, if it came up in week 10, Arizona might be popular through the roof, right? And it may not happen yet. So that's one early. Las Vegas has a couple of like borderline top 5 spots, I think, early in the season. Same with Dallas, and then New England more midseason. I think they have some pop up.
Yeah, and I'm on our Pool Genius season planner tool right now. I have it pulled up so I can see all these dates, all these weeks and teams that Jason is talking about. You can grab it too by going over to Pool Genius and clicking on the free trial button front and center there, going over to the season planner then. And I can see the Las Vegas Raiders. They are highlighted week 6 against Tennessee, week 12 against Cleveland, and week 17 against the Giants. Now, remember, that's based off of the look ahead lines. That's based off of the preseason expectations that we have for all these teams. So it'll change a little bit, but it's good to plan it out this way.
Those are teams like the Raiders. I don't think any of those are like obvious spots right now, right? But that's something if the Raiders are slightly better than we think, or if one of those opponents are slightly worse, those are the types of teams you're going to have to pick in a contest like Circa. To get to 20 teams, just do the math. Start naming 20 teams that you're comfortable picking. You're going to run out before 20, I promise you. So you're going to have to get to some of these teams with some of these games, and you're going to have to use them at the best potential spot they're available.
Yeah, so continuing with that theme of the pawns you could use at some point here to save your queens and kings, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys are it's a huge contingency to me because we don't know what the Cowboys are before the season. They have an extremely wide range of outcomes. We've talked to people here on Radio Row at Circa who are extremely bullish on them, and then you could go online and be like, there's people that are extremely bearish on them. We just don't know what to expect. They got Dak coming back from injuries. The defense, Micah Parsons, still a question mark at this point when we're recording it. Secondary is a giant question mark. But they could be all right.
Yeah, so that's an example, right? I don't think there's any one game if you looked at their schedule right now and you'd be like, oh yeah, you want to use them for sure. But if they're 2 points better than what we think, all of a sudden they have 6 games that are in play. The Giants against the Jets, maybe against the Panthers, maybe, at home against, either Arizona or somebody like that if they're better than Arizona and they're playing at home. So all those games suddenly become in play if we see their odds tick up a little bit and they get off to a good start. So they're one of those teams where you wouldn't project it now, but if they're good, it's going to directionally affect a lot of games that suddenly become in play for a team like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one of those teams, New England Patriots. A lot of people are high on them as well in terms of their win total. Looking at them to go above that. Looks like they have a few spots worth at least entertaining.
Yeah, the Patriots have one of the easiest schedules in football. I mean,
besides the 49ers,
yeah, I think they catch like every team almost that's like at the bottom of the win total power rating list. If you just look at their matchups, who the Patriots have, and you're almost certainly going to be using the Patriots this year if they are anywhere close to what people are expecting with Mike Vrabel. If they're just an average team, you're going to be in consideration to use the Patriots in Circa at a couple different spots.
Yeah, and a lot of this, like we said before, it depends on how bad some of these teams are. Are they as bad as we thought or even worse? That'll dictate the spots that you will be looking to deploy them. Also, the last of the pawns that you should be looking to strategically deploy, the AFC South teams.
Yeah, I put them
we don't know which one,
right,
so let's just blanket throw them all out there.
That's right. I put these together because it's one of those situations where they play each other, right?
Yep.
And so if one of those teams is better than we expect or one's worse, it presents like a correlated opportunity where that team's probably going to emerge as a pick this year. Like Indy, Jacksonville, Tennessee, meh, right?
Yeah.
But the odds are one of those teams is going to be better, and we're going to see that in the first few weeks than we expected.
Yeah, I know we want to keep this show evergreen, and we want to do it for the whole season. But if I can throw out a hot take right now and say it's not going to be the Colts, if it is, and you're watching this later on, and the Colts are actually good, feel free to drop me a comment and light me up. But
so what you're saying is, when we replay this episode back in like week 5, we're going to say, "Hey, come in. Don't put your survivor life on Daniel Jones," and we're going to be regretting when we do that later in the season. We're going to go roll the tape back. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and who knows if it's going to be Daniel Jones by then? Because I mean, it's a rotating cast of quarterbacks. Maybe it's Anthony Richardson. Maybe Daniel Jones gets cut. I don't know. Like I'm not predicting that. I'm not going that far. I'm just saying I don't have a ton of faith on the Colts going into the season. So.
Here's what I'll go ahead and say is a completely non-hot take. The Circa winners will have used one of those 3 teams somewhere in their 20 picks.
Absolutely. And you're talking Jacksonville, Indianapolis.
Yeah, whichever one emerges, that they will be a pick in Circa on a winning entry.
All right, so moving on, we have some challenging weeks that we identified, and I'm reading it here that we have, and we actually identified one more on top of this that I'm going to throw in there as a wrinkle. But it looks like week 10 could be a shaky middle week.
Yeah, week 10 is one where a lot of the like what I would say the highest value teams are not options in week 10. I know the Chiefs are on a bye, right? Mm-hmm. And there's some tough matchups.
Bengals are on a bye.
Like Buffalo's playing, but I think they must have a tough matchup. So the best options in week 10 are if you were to go to our tool
Buffalo
today.
Buffalo is at
Buffalo
Miami.
is,
They
but
could. But they, you know what? You could say that for Buffalo like almost 10
so
weeks out of the year
yeah.
because
So here's the thing: Buffalo, we have them as the top win odds, but that's 71%. They have at least 7 other weeks where they're higher.
yep.
So that's a spot where Buffalo could be in play as an EV play, but I don't think they'll be popular because they're going to be used so many other places.
Well,
and then that leaves Chicago, and that
that's
leaves Denver, who might be steamed up in week 1. But you might need Denver versus Las Vegas. If you avoid Denver this week and they're super popular, you may be coming back to them at a much lower own percentage. But they're in play. And fourth, Carolina Panthers. My gosh, could you imagine? The Carolina Panthers are our fourth projected win odds matchup as of right now because they get the Saints at home.
I mean, as you're saying
Can
that,
you imagine people putting you could be putting your life on the line there?
I mean, I would if I was made it to week 10 in Circa Survivor, I would definitely hedge before I put all my faith on Bryce Young and the Panthers.
You're
But
saying the secondary markets may see action in
they,
week 10.
they would see my action if I was
Yeah.
faced with that dilemma. It would be a good dilemma to have to get it to week 10. But um, what you're saying right there also has me thinking like Denver could be a good contrarian pick that week.
Yes.
That's not actually a contrarian pick in terms of the point spread and win
Right,
odds because depending on week 1, we've talked about this several times.
How much will they get steamed? Yeah.
Right now, we project Denver will be the most popular pick, and for good reason. They're 7.5-point favorite against Tennessee. But I mean, I'm just talking personally now. Do I kind of want to take the Cardinals because of that? Because the Cardinals are my number 2 team.
Yeah.
In terms of who I want to take week 1.
Yeah.
Do I want to save Denver for week 10? Having that sort of circled on the calendar as a strange week that I want them in my back pocket. I don't want to use Buffalo because I can use them almost any week if they hold up. So those are the kind of decisions you have to make when mapping them out.
Yeah.
Nothing is set in stone, but looking ahead towards a situation like that, as an example, can put you ahead of the pack.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then looking on, we have the next week, week 11. We have Baltimore is the only projected 7+ point favorite.
Yep.
The other options, we have Buffalo
at Cleveland.
Yeah, at Cleveland. We have Buffalo versus Tampa Bay. Probably not the best time to use the Bills. Yeah.
Up there in our win odds, but not the best relative spot for Buffalo.
You have New England against the Jets. You have Green Bay at the New York Giants, which that's so if I'm just looking at this piece of paper right now,
and Washington overseas against Miami, Washington also plays on Christmas in week 1 option. So yeah, those aren't great options, right? Those are not Washington versus Miami, Green Bay on the road at the Giants. We don't know what situation they'll be in. Those are not like comfortable picks, but they are if you either don't have Baltimore or Buffalo or you want to save them, those are going to look like your options. And that's why I'm highlighted as a tough week. Weeks 10 and 11 are kind of where you're thinking Thanksgiving, but you aren't there yet. And oh, by the way, suddenly you're going to make a pick you may not love.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at Baltimore, we said they're on a holiday week, so you might want to keep them in your back pocket, or you might want to use them later in the season. They're also our biggest favorite in week 2 at home against Cleveland.
Yeah.
So they're going to be popular then. If I'm doing multiple entries, I'm definitely going to have some of them in week 2. So there's a great chance they're not even available to you when week 11 comes around.
Yep.
And then moving on from that, we also, when we did our holiday YouTube video, we identified week 12 as sort of a strange week for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
Because the teams that play the holiday weeks, which are right after that we identified, are also the teams you want to pick in week 12. So, like, how do you go through and navigate that? Because Kansas City pops.
Yeah.
Baltimore pops again playing the Jets.
You can make the argument that those 3 teams, Baltimore, Detroit, KC, who also play on the holidays, have in a vacuum their best relative matchup in week 12. Baltimore at home against the Jets, Detroit at home against the Giants, Kansas City at home against the Colts. Kansas City plays a tougher schedule, so the Colts are one of their games, and it's at home. And so if you show up to week 12 with those teams, maybe you want to use one then, but maybe you don't. Like, you could save them. And then you drop down, and we have San Francisco, Carolina. They could be super popular. As I'm just thinking about that slate, because we know people will not have some of those teams.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we also identify we put a lot of stock into the Christmas slate because there's only 3 games.
Yeah.
You have to pick between 6
You gotta have
teams, and
one.
you have to have good options available.
And ideally a favorite available to you.
Right. But what about the 17B slate?
Oh gosh.
After the Christmas games, you come back, you have to make another pick on Sunday, and that slate is kind of slim pickings.
Well, and this is where things will change, but if they change, it could be a situation like what we had last year in week 17. So right now we project no team at 70% win odds in week 17,
Which is
including the
huge.
Christmas games.
Yeah.
And the 2 highest are Kansas City, Washington on the Christmas set of games. Our highest win odds projection is either Tennessee, a team that got the first overall pick last year,
against the Saints,
at home against the Saints, or Cincinnati at home against the Cardinals.
That's alarming.
Now, last year we saw the Colts get steamed up against a Giants team that was absolutely falling apart at the end of the season. But what happened and what could happen in this, based on our projections, if a team gets steamed up, it's probably going to be that they're super popular because nobody has picked them before them.
Yep.
And that's really what we're looking at in week 17.
Yeah, and you also have the 49ers in there, 61% win odds against the Bears. But as we alluded to before, the 49ers have one of the easiest schedules in football this season. You're probably going to be picking them along the way before that.
Yeah, we talked about week 12. They also play the Titans at home. They also play the Saints. So, right.
Yeah, so those are the challenging weeks. Yep. And then in our Circa Survivor strategy guide, we also outline some basic Circa Survivor and overall NFL Survivor concepts where we go through what is expected value. You hear Jason and I talking about EV all the time. Where can you find leverage EV? Yep. We go over what that means. We go over how to manage and calculate, how we calculate future value and look for, hey, we need to save those teams that are going to bring us future value, especially in a tricky contest like Circa Survivor with those holiday slates, and how to plan around that and how to balance EV and future value.
Yeah, so we cover some basic strategies, and then I also will go into what I would call more advanced circuit strategies to close the book. So if for the beginners, you'll want to, if you're not aware fully what EV is, read up on that. Some of you probably are like, I know what that is. That's fine. We want to provide something for all of you. So we also have advanced strategies for this contest that I go through, hitting on some key points that I think come up if you're playing this contest. One is portfolio management. How do you play multiple entries in this contest? How do you need to think about it? I don't think there's one right answer. I think there's a clearly wrong answer. And then there are debatable and adaptable decisions you have to make in how to play multiple entries. I would not spread my picks across. If I had 10, I would not be picking 2 picks on 5 different teams in week 1. I think that's you're going to lose entries along the way. So the general choice in a contest like this is how much do I concentrate versus how do I diversify? Probably ideal is like 2 to 3 teams, but you could go concentrated for a week or 2, right? I think the mistake people make is sometimes they get through by going 10, 10, 10, 10. Oh, I went 4-0 against the chaos. I'm a genius, right? And then the Grim Reaper comes to hit them.
Yeah,
and they go out when they had an edge in the contest that's developing, and they could have started diversifying a little bit and still had that edge over the field.
So speaking to that point, are you saying to spread it across multiple teams, say 2 or 3 teams from week 1?
I think you could play it. That is a personal decision on how you want to play this contest because you're a long shot no matter what, right? Mm-hmm. I think if you're wanting to be involved in this is another topic in the strategy guide, like secondary market, valuing entries, selling parts of entries. You probably want to diversify if your interest is that, right? You don't want to risk being out in week 1 with all your entries. But here's the thing with that. You got to take stands somewhere. Like there were plenty of winners that were down to one entry 4 or 5 weeks in.
Yep.
So they're all in from that point on for the last 14 picks of the contest, if you think about it that way, right? They diversified early, got one through, and went all in the rest of the way. So they're 100% on one pick. They just happen to have one entry to do it on it. You can go all in for a few early if you want to, and then start diversifying. I think you just have to be adaptable and maybe not rigid with your rules. Like, I'm going to pick 10. You can be like, I love this team this week. I'm going to take that risk. Or you could be like, I'm going to go 5 on this one, 3 on this one, 2 on this one this week, and spread it out a little and see how it goes. You could do either strategy. I think the best is probably like a 6-4 approach early on. Pick your best team, put a little more than half on it.
Yeah, and personally, just thinking through that, I think it makes sense to diversify a little bit because that gives you angles later in the season. Like we talked about, the Denver Broncos, week 1, biggest favorite. If you go 10 on the Broncos, you might not have that leverage that we talked about week 10 when it comes back around. If you go 5-5 Broncos, Cardinals, you could have that sneaky leverage when it comes around week 10 if the rest of the pack is all over the Broncos week 1. It gives you different angles where you can win.
It
And it's kind of a good
It
position.
definitely does.
Of course, it all comes down to if you survive that long to actually get there. But we have to plan for, like, we're actually going to be able to make some moves. If you don't, whatever, conversation's over either way. But, like, you want to put yourself in a position to win.
Yeah, like, so what you spoke about, diversify. Again, you don't want to diversify too much where you're where your odds of advancing your entries entirely are so low. Like, if you pick 5 teams, your chance of going 5-0, like, you got to get so many. It's like hitting a 5-team parlay, right? Yep. There's a reason Vegas makes money on 5-team parlays. You're going to lose entries. You want to concentrate a little more than that. But when you talked about diversifying so you have different angles, we ultimately don't know what the right paths are. Sometimes picking a team in a certain week early keeps you off them when they happen to be the pick that costs everybody. Yep. I'll give you an example of that last year, just in a different pool I won. The one where I won, I used Washington in week 7 when they were somewhat of they were a top 5 popularity, but they were not the most popular. I used them then. Well, because I used them, they weren't even an option for me in the week they lost to Dallas. So I was picking somebody else, and I benefited. Now, blind luck in that sense, I wasn't on Washington, but I was on a different path than the people that ended up being loaded up on Washington just because I made that decision early with that injury.
And what you're referring to was late in the year where the Commanders were upset by the Cooper Rush Dallas Cowboys. It was, in fact, the biggest point spread upset of the year. It cost a lot of Circa Survivor entries, a brutal way to lose, where the Commanders tied it up
PAT.
in the last seconds of the game. Missed the PAT to tie it. The Cowboys went on to pull off the outright upset. Circa Survivor chaos ensued, and that was right towards the end. But yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about, because not just from a planning perspective, but just from the angle and from the happenstance and putting yourself in a position to be lucky. Like, that's what we talk about all the time.
Like, I certainly lost entries on Washington in other pools from that one, but that particular entry benefited by having that angle and that path on the entry that eventually won.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said before, this is all in our strategy guide, which you can download the ebook for free at poolgenius.com. Just click on the Circa Survivor tab in there, put your email in, push download now. We'll send you an email with the book in it, free of charge. Great way to get prepped for the season. Get your mind in the NFL Survivor game, the Circa Survivor contest game. Get prepped for this as you go into the season. So, Jason, any closing thoughts as we wrap up our Circa Survivor strategy episode?
Oh, yeah, check it out. Use our tools. Think for yourselves, but make good decisions. Use our tools to help you. I think I would love to see people using our tools win. I think multiple people, like we said, one person may have a different angle on using our tools than another. Absolutely. So not only are we individually talking about taking this, but somebody may use our tools and be on the right path ultimately. And so we'd love to see you all use these paths, increase your edge, and would love to see one of you come out on top at the end of 2000.
Yeah, and we talked to several people here who
Yep.
are subscribers of our product who came up to us here
Yep.
at Circa Ultimate Contest Weekend saying, hey, I use your product to do this, and then I go off and do the
Yeah.
XYZ. And then others are like, yeah, I just look at the dashboard and it gives me a sense of exactly what I need to do.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of our product is it's adaptable. It can serve so many use cases. We've really beefed up the product this year. Once again, you can go to poolgenius.com, look at it for yourself for a free trial in week one, and also download the Circa Survivor strategy guide. So we hope that's of great use to you, and good luck in all your Circa Survivor contests this year.